Welcome back to For the Record here on Law and Crime. I'm Jeanette Levy, and welcome and thanks for being here to all of our viewers on YouTube and Twitch. We are taking your questions, and we are taking those submitted via YouTube chat, Twitter, Facebook, and on Twitch. So thanks to everybody for sending them in. They're great questions. Let's go to Kill It Fan Forever from YouTube. Karen, I'll throw this question to you. Since Amber brought up Lily Rose, if you're just joining us or if you're new to the case, is Johnny Depp's daughter, and she was a minor during this whole thing, during this marriage. Since she brought up Lily Rose in the trial, does that open the door for Vanessa Paradis, Lily Rose's mother, to be brought in as a witness on rebuttal?
That's a good question. The issue is what specific information did Amber testify as to on her direct or her cross-examination. She didn't, to my recollection, Amber didn't bring up specific statements that Lily Rose made. She did indicate that Lily Rose, I believe there's an incident that Amber felt that Lily Rose was afraid or concerned about her father, Johnny Depp's behavior. I don't think that Johnny Depp's team would find that something that they would want Lily Rose to have to come in and defend or negate, right? So I don't think from his team's perspective that he wants to keep both his children, Jack and Lily Rose, out of the picture. So I don't even think that the mother, Vanessa, would want to bring the children in. So I don't think that there's anything that really would benefit Johnny Depp's team in bringing Lily Rose in at this point, since he doesn't want either one of his children or even Vanessa involved. I'm sure that he's talked at length to Vanessa about the possibility of bringing the children in, even though they're now adults. And I don't think that he wants them brought into the case. He just wants to clear his name without bringing them into the case.
No doubt. Protecting the kids is always a parent's first priority. All right, I'm going to combine these next two questions because they're somewhat similar, and I'm going to add to it a little bit as well. So this combined question comes from Nana Noodles from Facebook, and from Twitch, Sylvia_U. When Amber Heard started her testimony, Catherine, last week, she said that she wrote the op-ed. But then the ACLU actually said they basically wrote the op-ed with her input. So can the ACLU now be sued, or even the Washington Post, if it's found that this whole thing was false?
I love the names of our questions. Thanks for that question. Now, the question is to who can be sued. Technically, anyone can be sued. It's very easy to sue. Now, whether or not you're going to prevail, that's the whole different story. And Washington Post and ACLU could have been sued by Johnny Depp for the defamation with that information that they're the ones who wrote part of the or the drafts of the op-ed and even the final, right? They had to approve that as well. But the thing is, Johnny Depp didn't do that strategically because it's so much harder to file a lawsuit and win against the media, such as Washington Post, because of the protection of First Amendment speech. And also the same goes with ACLU, that it will be harder for him to prevail against them. That's why he focused on Amber Heard, because really the Amber Heard's name was there as the author, even though ACLU's general counsel testified that they wrote the draft for her. She's the one who approved it. The op-ed was under her name as the author, and the experiences of sexual violence and domestic abuse is now being presented as a first-hand account from her. So it just made sense strategically to just sue her because it's a stronger claim.
All right. Well, now let's look at a clip. Let's look at the clip from Dr. Shannon Curry. She was the forensic psychologist who testified for Johnny Depp's legal team, and she met with Amber Heard for a total of 12 hours last December and made an assessment of her. She said that she diagnosed Amber Heard with borderline and histrionic personality disorders. She said that she does not believe that Amber Heard suffers from PTSD. She said, in fact, she believed she was feigning symptoms of it. That is in contrast to the opinion of the defense psychologist, Amber Heard's psychologist that her team hired. So let's listen to a little bit of what Dr. Shannon Curry had to say about how borderline personality disorder can affect personal relationships.
You indicated Miss Pennington was a former friend of,
yes,
of Miss Heard. Is there a relationship between borderline personality disorder and intimate relationships?
yes. So the instability definitely translates to their relationships. You'll see relationships start very intensely. People will, somebody with borderline personality disorder perceives the relationship as extremely close. This pattern of idealizing and devaluing is definitely at play. They do this with their lovers and also with their friends. And so this might be the perfect person, their perfect soulmate friend, perfect soulmate partner, and their engagement in the relationship is very alluring, very charming to the other person. And so initially everything seems great. But what occurs is that reality sets in. People are not perfect, even when we have a lot in common with them. Whereas most of us can accept somebody as a whole, somebody who has a little bit of flaws, and still think this is my great friend who always constantly running late for dinner. The person with borderline personality disorder, things are in these extremes, this black and white, we call it splitting. And so that person goes from being idealized, the perfect person, to dumpster. They are totally devalued. They are the worst friend. They don't care anything about me. I have better people around. And then there will be a repair, because the person with this disorder does feel remorseful after they have these reactions, angry, tell their friend off. But over time, it wears away at these relationships. And so what you'll usually see is many transitions in their friendships over the years, people who have sort of fallen by the wayside, who were really very close-knit at one time, and then, but there's not a lot of consistency in the long term. You'll also see that with their intimate relationships, many relationships, but none that are particularly long-term.
So that was Dr. Shannon Curry talking about somebody with borderline personality disorder, which she says Amber Heard has, and she is saying that that can really impact personal relationships. People go from being, this big, great friend of theirs to dumpster. So that was an interesting, I think we're always getting this really great psychology lesson through this trial. Catherine, I'm going to ask you this question. I think this is a really good question. This comes from, I think it's Michelle Tellis from Facebook. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize, but there's an A in the middle. Michelle Tellis from Facebook asks, can they pull metadata? We've kind of heard about that a little bit throughout this trial. Metadata from the photos, because metadata tells when it's taken, if it's been altered, things like that. Michelle says these are possible Botox and filler bruises. How about that, Catherine? What are your thoughts on both of those questions, or both of those issues, the metadata and whether or not these are Botox and filler bruises?
It definitely raises that question as to whether or not these photos are authentic. Because a lot of us are looking at the photos and thinking that could have been something else, like the black eye also could be, is that just she slept late and just has an eye bug, or like what is going on? And so that's why what we do before trial is have someone extract those data from the phone, from your computer, laptop, and look at metadata. That is part of the evidence that we have to gather. It's my understanding, actually, that Johnny Depp's team filed a motion against to the court against Amber Heard's photos, yes, because it's my understanding that they had difficulty extracting that information, that metadata, and they were claiming that there was some tampering of the metadata. Now, I'm not exactly sure what was the final ruling on that. I was trying to research that, but I haven't found that yet. But that is very interesting whenever someone is claiming that the metadata has been tampered with. So now they're not sure how to properly authenticate the pictures there. But those pictures have been admitted into evidence. So now it's the jury who has to decide whether or not those are believable and credible.
Yeah, and I think, just to add to that about the metadata, Johnny Depp, you might have heard during his testimony, he said, I don't have any metadata. Like, I don't have metadata for that. And it's because he hired an expert. And according to these documents that I was reading through the court, they've asked for sanctions against her attorneys because she was supposed to, apparently, Amber Heard was supposed to turn over the phone to their expert, or some type of different software was supposed to be used to download it. So apparently this didn't happen properly, and so the metadata for some of these images is not there. You heard him refer to that. They were not happy about that, and I would think that would be a big issue. This whole issue about how the phone wasn't downloaded properly with the proper software. All right, we are still taking your questions on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube chat, Twitter. Submit them and we'll answer them. We're taking this quick break on the network, so everybody on YouTube and Twitch, stay with us. We have to do this for a commercial break. We'll be right back. You're watching For the Record on Law and Crime.